because 440 it's completely unhealthy for you. When Taylor Swift does a witchcraft performance in her concerts, is that real? 100 freaking percent that's real.
I'm Chris King, and this is Ascend the Matrix, a podcast for lightworkers, starseeds, and awakened souls who are here to heal, uncover the truth, and ascend the matrix together. Thank you all again for joining me for part 2 of this amazing episode of Ascend the Matrix podcast. I have my guest Ford here. Ford, go ahead and introduce yourself for people who have not seen your previous episodes or know your work.
Hi, my name is Ford, and I have a channel called Ford's Playground on YouTube where I talk about philosophy and Zen and non-duality. And I have a story where I've lived a life of a music producer for about 30 years. And in that life, I've worked with just about every famous person you can imagine. And that's been quite an incredible life. And that music life brought me over to uh, getting into the specifics of the unique frequencies of solfeggio and 528 and 432 hertz, and how geometry and music are different expressions of light, and uh, and really getting into the power of what that can do. So that's a big part of what I'm doing now, which is on YouTube also with my other channel called PhiTribe,
Mhm.
and that's what I'm up to.
Yeah, and it's excellent music. It has
Thank you.
helped me with certain body aches, ascension symptoms, sleep. I listen to it when I'm in the bath sometimes, clearing my energy or doing meditation. And you can feel it sounds great, yes, but also there's something underlying it that if you're
Yeah.
tuned into that, you can really, everyone's responding to it. But when you have an ear for it, it's quite unique. So please share with us about your experience before we get to PhiTribe, which
Hmm.
I feel is the culmination of your soul mission and sort of the place in which your previous experience in Hollywood or as a record producer laid the groundwork for. So take us back there to that time.
Yeah, music was just I instantly gravitated to it as a kid. My dad played guitar. I played drums from the time I was probably 5 years old, playing drums. And when I was about 10 or 12 years old, I got my first keyboard, a little Casio keyboard, came from Kmart. And I was so in love with this thing. This is the early 80s, 1980 probably. And I was just so fascinated with that stuff that it just became a huge passion of mine. Started playing in bands when I was in my teenage years. I was really terrible. All of my bandmates would probably be laughing about that. And I just stuck with it. Ended up getting into the music business. Started out working in recording studios, getting coffee and pizza, and worked my way up the ladder to become a recording engineer, and then a record producer. And I moved up the ladder very quickly because it was the early 90s, and not a lot of people knew how to do MIDI. And I was really, really proficient with MIDI back then.
Hmm.
That was a
Hmm.
really good thing to know. So I was able to become a producer pretty quickly, and been producing records since the mid 90s, and ended up working, having my first hit record when I was 30 years old, 29 years old, a huge Billboard hit, and from there my life changed. It's like everybody wanted that sound on their record, and it was one of the first times a trance record had made it to the radio, and
Hmm.
I knew how to do it in a way that would be commercial. And once I did that, it took over every station, and then suddenly every famous person was calling, going, "Produce my record," or "Remix my
Yeah.
record," or
What
So
record was that, if you don't mind?
it was a small record called "I See Stars" back in the day. It was like a one-hit wonder kind of thing.
Hmm.
But it was cool, and it was like the first time anybody heard like trance sounds on the radio. It just wasn't a
Hmm.
thing then yet. And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I worked for a small record company, and they would send me to a big conference called MIDEM in France, where I'd have to listen to the songs they would be licensing for America.
Hmm.
So I was always on the cutting edge of what was cool and what was happening. And this thing called trance was this gigantic thing happening over in Europe, and nobody in
Hmm.
America knew what it was. So when I figured out how to take that sound, make it commercial, it was a pretty profound thing, and it changed my life in a huge way. And
Well,
yeah,
many of the songs that I loved as a kid, some of them you remixed, some of them you fully produced or played a part in.
yeah, yeah,
When I came to your studio and saw the records on the wall, so I was like, wow, I've known Ford a long time. I've known Ford a lot longer than I realized because some of them are defining songs or those songs as a kid that were sort of not life changing, but when you think of your childhood, some of them play in your head.
yeah. I
And
get
so it
you.
was really special and it was sweet. And from what I'm hearing from you, you didn't get to where you got in the music industry because you sold your soul to the devil and went into the temple.
No, I stumbled on to do something that no one thought of first, and I took the underground sound and made it commercially viable, which no one was able to figure out how to do, you know.
Hmm.
And right after that, then it became a whole plethora of songs doing that. But
Mm.
there's something to be said about being first, you know,
Yeah,
or among the
absolutely.
first, you know.
Do you
And it was
feel that there
cool.
were,
Yeah. Go ahead.
do you
Sorry.
feel that there were, it's okay. Do you feel that there were healing frequencies already in those songs or there was already channeling that you were bringing through?
No, not well, kind of. When I first started doing the music, I had never taken drugs before.
Hmm.
And I was just imitating, what I was hearing a little bit. And I started, experimenting with ecstasy after that and, tripping and psychedelics and doing that kind of thing. And then I started to experience the music in a very, very different way from that point
Oh, I
on.
bet.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what I need to be doing. Like this
Mhm.
is, which was crazy because I already had hits by then, but now I was able to totally see it from a different perspective. And I think that's when you could say the spirit entered, into
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I went back. It was so funny because I wasn't awake back then at all. I was very much an atheist at that time. But when a few years later, when I started waking up to the present moment, I would go back and listen to these songs I wrote and the lyrics were all talking about the present moment, even though that's not what I was writing about at the time, but they
Yeah.
were all easily interpreted, I was able to interpret all of them to be like as this thing pointing to the now.
Yeah. Well, this reminds me, and many people will recognize that symbol there, but it reminds me a lot of Prince's journey through the music industry. And, he had a big issue with the music industry.
Oh, it's
He even
terrible.
wrote slave on his face to make a point, talk about a matrix disruptor, Mr. and Mrs. Prince. I mean, he really was just himself in so many ways. And he has shared with me in spirit that purple rain is actually a violet ray, almost like the way people talk about the violet flame, violet ray healing frequency. But that was not when he was tapped into it. It was just creeping its way into the music. It wasn't until around the late 80s when he had his awakening that he started to make songs like Seven, all seven, and we'll watch them fall, which is about the seven archons and the Gnostic texts and
Mm.
the dismantling of a false matrix. That's when you hear this huge shift, and that's where that symbol came about. And so it reminds me of that because the muses are working through you whether you know it or not. But once you really tapped in, then it's no longer a precipitation, it's an embodied channeling experience. And I think that's what PhiTribe really feels like
For
to
sure,
me.
for sure. That's exactly what PhiTribe stands for. Like anytime you make music, you're channeling, we call it flow state. You're getting into that flow, whatever your yoga is to get into that flow state, you're getting into that place. And there's no real musician out there who would deny what I'm about to say, which is we're not writing that music. You're just putting
Yeah.
yourself into a state. You start moving and all of a sudden it starts coming through you and it's like a drug. When it comes through you, it's like a drug. It's unbelievable.
Mm.
And is that spirit? I guess, it was happening to me when I was an atheist, but somehow I was still channeling music that was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Phi Tribe was the culmination of 3 attempts of making a record company with that intention, which was everything we do. is about either lyrically waking somebody up or bringing someone to the present moment or getting them to look at their life in a new way that's positive. And we were all about using frequencies that were beneficial to the human body because 440 is completely dissonant. It's completely unhealthy for you, you know. Um, so
For
that
my
was the
audience
intention
who
of
is not
PhiTribe.
as
Pardon me.
familiar, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but for my audience who is not as familiar with
Oh, yeah.
Hertz frequencies and that sort of thing, will you explain the distortion and possibly the intentional distortion I feel around some of these Hertz frequencies or the way music is tuned to actually create a
Yeah,
discordant
absolutely.
frequency? What are your thoughts about that?
There are a lot of conspiracies about this, but I'm going to tell you what the facts are. These are the facts. First of all, what is tuning? Well, in order for musicians to play together in harmony with one another, we all say, okay, you're going to play an A note and I'm going to play an A note, and we're going to match our A notes. Okay. And what we're doing is we're changing the frequency, the pitch of our A notes until they're in alignment with one another. And that's how a band is able to coordinate and play together. And that's called tuning an instrument.
Mhm.
Now, the standard tuning for music prior to the 1950s was 432 hertz. Was the most pleasing frequency for A. This is a very agreed upon thing. Now, were there other frequencies being used? Yes, there were lots of frequencies being used. And there are lots of frequencies being used today that has never changed. But the predominant frequency by a lot was 432 hertz until suddenly the Germans and the Nazis started doing experimentations on sound frequencies. And Joseph Goebbels, who was a part of the Nazi regime, instituted and brought in a proposed change to the universal tuning standards when they took over Austria. And Goebbels' mission was completely backed by the Rockefeller
Oh,
Institution.
oh my God.
And so, why all this money and power going into this changing this frequency? Well, why would they do that? I don't know. But they changed this tuning from 432 hertz to 440 hertz,
Hmm.
which we now know is mathematically dissonant. In other words, 432 hertz, your entire body resonates with this frequency, and you can feel it. You can feel it in the goosebumps on your skin. Yeah, you ever listen to music and kind of get that, ooh, wow,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
really right. That's your whole body feels music. And your whole body, because of the geometry of the small particles making up your body, resonates properly against 432 hertz. It just
Mhm.
your body sings, and it's beautiful. And when it's in 440 hertz, it sings in a bad way. It's what that's called dissonant.
Yeah.
It's like two bad notes playing against one another. It's like ugh,
Mm.
ugh. It just has a very icky kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So those are the things we figured out many years later. But prior to the 1950s, music was big band. We had a lot of classical music. There's a lot of musicianship going on there. And then right around 1950, what happened? It got aggressive. Music suddenly got very aggressive, and we called it rock and roll. And I'm not
Hmm.
saying that rock and roll is the devil's music or blues is the devil's music. I'm just saying,
Right.
there's an interesting correlation there that the
Yeah.
tuning changes, and now suddenly what's being inspired is aggressive.
Hmm.
It's just aggressive.
Hmm.
And you got to think about, well, the government essentially changed this. What was their motivation to change the tuning to make people more aggressive? I don't know. Or to make them more anxious or to have more
Yeah.
anxiety. Right. So it's a very deep rabbit hole.
May I
And
ask you something
please
about it?
do cut me off because I can just
Well,
ramble forever
have
about
a,
it. Yeah.
oh, it's okay. I love to hear you speak, and I want to have a little dialogue about some things that you
Please.
just mentioned. So you mentioned the effects of the Nazi experience. That's the only word I have for it right now, without being so judgmental about it let's just give it a name like that, the effects of it have trickled out into the rest of the world. And my belief or my perception of it is that there was something inhuman happening there. And especially with the dictator in charge of all of that, of course. But you mentioned a specific bloodline family, the Rockefellers, and it's interesting that they would be part of the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati and be hybrid reptilian human bloodlines, and also back the purposeful mistuning or dissonant frequency of music. And what I'm getting psychically right now is that it not only disturbs our cellular membrane, because they're showing me cymatics when you talk about 432, how the cymatics just forms or matches. It's like it looks like snowflakes in my mind right now. But with 440, it's almost like our body can't fully refuse it, so it tries to assimilate it in some way, and it activates the part of our brain that we would call the reptilian brain
Mm.
or the more primal part of the brain. So maybe that's where some of the aggressive energies or more primal energies are coming through. Even there's nothing wrong with sex, but more animalistic or primal, not conscious sexual energy. What do you feel about all of
I
that?
think you're totally spot on with respect to the reptilian part of the brain being triggered by the frequencies. There's this something called cymatics that maybe your audience might be familiar with, where you play frequencies over a plate and you sprinkle sand on top, or maybe you have it in a small dish of water and it makes geometric patterns out of the sand on the plate, depending on the frequency that's being played. And as a general rule, when you play things that are 440 hertz through this process, um, what the geometry is not being produced. It's very, very chaotic and ugly, to use no other really word for it. But when you play things that are 432 based, the geometry of what's being produced on the plate is perfect. It looks like you said, a snowflake. It's just perfect beauty.
Yeah,
Now, when you think about that frequency represents that shape, right? And your body is what, 80% water, 75% water, right? What's happening when that sound is meeting the water of your body? You've got 440 hertz, which is making non-geometric patterns out of your water, or you have 432 hertz, which is making perfect geometry in the water of your body. You have to imagine that that's doing something. And I think that you're
absolutely.
right. I think that what happens is symmetry is the norm. That's why the golden ratio is like the fingerprint of the divine. The perfection of symmetry and perfect geometry is abundant everywhere we look in nature. But whenever it's off, whenever there's a distortion in that geometry, that kind of triggers that reptilian aspect of our brain, which is
Yeah.
right. Am I have to be afraid? Am I have to run? Am I
Yeah.
have to kill it? Am I have to, what's going to happen here? Am I going to eat it? What's going to? So I think that distortion is like just hardwired into us, and I don't know for certain, but I would be uh, very curious to see. I bet the Nazis figured out that's what it does. It triggers that aspect of the human experience.
Yeah, I think we're pulling that in together right
Yeah,
now because I'm getting a big download around mind control and
sure.
how music is, we can talk about MK Ultra, we can talk about the different programs that are intentional programs. So before we go into PhiTribe, because I want to discuss the mechanics of it, what Phi is, we can bring up 369, Solfeggio, Rife. We've mentioned these before, but you mentioned in our last interview something. You brought up Jay-Z, you were being playful, but I want to talk a little bit about this with someone who was in the arena, even while it's happening, but you sort of exited the music industry the way you were in it before we got to the level of just overt satanic mind control that's happening in the music. Tell me some of your thoughts about what's coming out with certain celebrities and music artists and record companies in Hollywood.
none of that stuff was on the surface back then. Because first of all, that wasn't the narrative. So no one,
Yeah.
I wasn't, it wasn't like I was looking for the devil. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
It wasn't that kind of a thing. But here's what I will tell you that I'm more than 100% sure of. There's two music businesses. There is the surface level of the music business where anybody can make it, and this is where your one-hit wonders are, right? They come
Yep.
in, they have a hit, and then they're asked to do whatever they have to do to be the next level. And if they're not gonna do that thing, whatever it is, then they're a one-hit wonder, and then you never
That's
hear
right.
from them again, right? What is that thing? Is it the devil? No, I highly doubt it. Um, I I'm pretty sure it's the CIA or some form of government propaganda arm that's running things at that high level.
Hmm.
Like the most influential people on the planet are famous people. Like the influence that they have is mind boggling, right?
Hmm.
Do you think they're going to risk letting someone have that much power, being able to say whatever they want to say? Of course not. These people are groomed for these positions. I could
Hmm.
tell you 100% from my personal experience, there's a ceiling of having incredible content that is positive and uplifting and good for the world, that it's not because it's bad stuff, because they got licensed to dozens of movies afterwards, no problem. It's, but it was turned down for reasons I can't explain.
Hmm.
You're bringing them music that is already successful, already making a lot of money. Here you go, take it to the next level, and it's shot down. And that story that I'm telling you of myself is an echoing story of so many, many, many artists. I've had so many conversations with rappers and other artists who've told me that they don't want to write stuff about drugs and the negative stuff and treat women like hoes, but if they don't write those songs, they don't get promoted. And the ones that do, so you learn real quick where your check is coming from, and we're all trying to make a check here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've also had deep conversations. Well, I'm not going to mention names, but extremely famous people who have confirmed the story of record companies being involved in owning prisons and using the propaganda arm of the music to promote criminal behavior
Yeah.
to fill their prisons up, which is kind of really gross, really, really gross. Um, these people are already famous or in an empty room. There's no reason for these people to lie to me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I have to take that as something that's real.
Hmm.
And this is something that everyone in the industry talks about. We all talk about it behind closed doors.
Hmm.
So yes, if the question is when Taylor Swift does a witchcraft uh, performance in her concerts, is that real? 100 freaking percent that's real.
Absolutely. That was what I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
next was the spell that they
Yeah.
cast.
It's a spell. Magic is real. And I would think that the CIA has convinced the world, and other programs like the CIA has convinced the world that magic is not real. They label it satanic and it's the devil so that you're afraid of it because they don't want you using it,
It's
right?
exactly right.
They don't want
Hmm.
you using magic because magic
Hmm.
is powerful. And when they do a seance in a concert with 80,000 people all participating, that energy is being harnessed to move
Loosh.
whatever that thing is. Loosh may be what it is. I'm all about Bob Monroe. I mean, he definitely is a brilliant guy, and there could be some real things with Loosh there. But what if it's something that's even more simple? Like, let's say there's a maneuver that needs to happen in a war, right?
Hmm.
So she does some sort of spell where maybe a name is mentioned or something, right?
Yeah.
And now everyone in the audience has kind of heard that name be mentioned. And in a blink, now we've got fractality of that message being done by 80,000 people, and boom, it fruitions into being,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Magic is real. It's very, very real. It's just fractality. How many ways can I say something? How many different ways can I reinforce this thing that I want to happen? And can you see the power of having a gigantic
Absolutely.
audience to help you reinforce the notion of a thought, right?
Yes.
So yeah, you're being used. Don't go to those shows. Don't go to those
Yeah.
shows.
I've been to a Prince concert and I've been to a Rihanna concert, and there was a completely different frequency. But there is something I've seen in the music industry with the Illuminati and all the hand symbols and the covering of the eye and the things that they do. They understand karma. Saturn's the lord of karma, and they understand the laws here. So if they tell us about it and we choose it, they have no karmic repercussions. We chose it, even though we don't know what we're choosing. And that reminds me of the 440 hertz is we're just listening to music, right?
Yeah.
But we're also not choosing it to be discordant. We don't know that. So,
Most musicians don't even know this, right? I mean, I didn't know this for the majority of my career.
mhm,
And I when was turned on to it, I found it so mind-blowing and so experiential that I had my piano that I had at the time retuned to 432 hertz. I had to go through several tuners. They all were like, "You're going to ruin your piano," blah 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 blah. And then when I did it, I sat down and played an A minor chord. First thing I did, and every hair on my body stood up. Like I was like, "Oh my God, I totally did the right thing." It was just magical,
yeah.
magical.
It's interesting the distortions and blockages you had to move through
Yeah,
to even get it tuned
yeah,
because
just that, right?
it feels like mind control. It feels like there are people who were not told to distort you or distract you or get you off of your path.
Yeah,
But again, like the programs and the matrix, there's scripts running in people. And 432 hertz, how state of the art were you? Because now I can find several people here in Mount Shasta who play the guitar who, if you handed them a guitar, they would say, "Is this tuned to 432 hertz?" It's a thing now.
yeah,
People are aware of this.
yeah.
And I think that's why PhiTribe has become so popular.
Yeah, we were definitely one of the first channels on YouTube, really exploiting the 432 and there's we've got like I've got I don't know about 500 tracks on there now, and
Wow.
most of
Wow.
I would say the vast majority of all of the different frequencies that I do are not even my own ideas. They're just like I'll do research to find out other people have done the science on it already. There's so many NIH studies on these frequencies already where you can find them, and I just reproduce the study, using it with music. And yeah, you can definitely hear the difference. There's just something about it that is just resonates. It's not what I'm playing. It's just something about the frequencies that does something to reality itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's very much the organic, harmonized version
yeah.
of or tuned organically tuned version of what they're trying to create. So your music is medicine. It's like medicine to undo that or to re-entrain our energy and our cells and our auric field to the organic template, to true symmetry and geometry. And that's what I would love to hear from you
Yeah, the
about now.
Vatican saw this as medicine. The Vatican has kept this secret. The solfeggio frequencies are frequencies based on geometry. And the Vatican has kept these frequencies secret for 1100 years. You
Hmm.
cannot play these frequencies on any instrument. You can't get there. There's no way to play them. You have to drastically retune your instrument in a crazy number to just get some of these frequencies to work on the keyboards.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Benedictine monks who did Gregorian chant was all about these frequencies. And you go, well, how do they know what 528 hertz is? Because the numbers are all based on proportionality. And when you look at things through a geometric lens, if the shape is the right shape, then it's the right frequency. And just the
That's
way
right.
we know how angles work is exactly the same way the frequencies of sound work.
Hmm.
Perfect chords make perfect shapes. If you think about it like that, there's a perfect correspondence between shape and sound and light. Just like there's a perfect correspondence between ice, water, and steam.
Hmm.
It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Talk
it's
to me a little
fascinating.
bit about
Yeah.
Phi itself, because you talk about, the Vatican has all kinds of stuff in the basement, okay, including the solfeggio frequencies. And there's a reason they're hiding these things out. And so you bringing it out is really revolutionary and game changing for the music
Yeah,
industry, because actually the music industry, I feel, is about to become very individuated, very independent, and much more spiritual. And tell me about Phi, especially for our audience who is not as versed in this golden ratio. Talk about the
sure.
mechanics and mathematics of this music.
Yeah, I'm not a mathematician, but I will tell you that, well, first of all, we created this proprietary way of producing music that we call phi balanced. And in I'm going to give away the secret here of what it actually is. Well, a very, very good friend of mine, a brilliant, brilliant engineer and music producer, Mike Pritchard. We were both fascinated by these different frequencies and would just get so deeply wrapped up in them for years. We were just trying to figure out, what was making them so special. And through a combination of philosophy and math, we came to this realization that the golden ratio and the Fibonacci are essentially the fingerprint of perfection everywhere. And when you look at music, everything about music is a set of ratios. So everything, when you look at music, the way that music is produced, not necessarily the way that music is written, although it is about the way it's written, but every component from the way it's written, from the way it's separated on the mixing board, the way it's balanced and mixed, highs and lows, from the where sounds come in and where they leave, and where they different sounds come in and where they leave. All of these are ratios, and and every single knob on a mixing console, you see those big mixing consoles, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Every single one of those knobs has numbers on it. Well, guess what? Those knobs and those numbers are ratios. So by studying Tesla and Robert Maxwell, um, Mike and I, we just realized that the secret to it was the way that Maxwell was seeing. He organized the vibration, what vibration was, and he used basically what we call numerology now to define these different stages of what a vibration is. So what the numbers mean. So one is basically oneness. Two is the introduction of other, which is what inspiration is, right? As soon as we have two, therefore I am, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
the initiation of change. Three is the actual movement. It's the commitment of that change. Four represents community. It's gathering information to prepare for this, to make this change happen. It goes into five, which represents metamorphosis. Six is the duality of where we started. So six is opposite of three. And to know anything, you have to know its opposite. So
Yeah.
this is the meaning of six. This is why sixes are bad. Six is the opposite. But this is how everything learns. This is how everything evolves, right? So
Mm.
we go from six, which is terrible state, and we're saved by the divine, which is seven,
Seven.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
then we've taken that information and we've culminated the good and the bad aspects of the two things into eight. And this is where the power of infinity uses that information to bring us to completion, which is nine, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So when you understand the meaning of what those numbers are, and then on a philosophical level, and now I'm applying that philosophy to the numbers on a console, and I'm just trying to create the golden ratio wherever I look. So basically, I make the music and I get it sounding kind of like how I want it to sound. And then I go back to every knob and tweak it until it's the
Wow.
perfect golden ratio. Every aspect. There's
Mm.
thousands of different aspects to a song and sounds. So this is what makes the sounds so unique and so special. It's not just playing a keyboard and sounds are coming out. There's
Right.
a lot going on behind it, and
Intention
everything
is
you're hearing,
everything.
yeah, intention too is everything. Think about how much intention is going into me making it the intention of
You're
perfection,
coding
perfection,
it.
perfection. Yeah, I'm encoding it right there, just through thoughts. So that is what phi balance is. And I know that's a really heavy concept for a lot of you guys, but some of you who are,
This
you
audience can
know,
handle it.
yeah, I
They
think
can not
so.
only handle it, but they're resonating with it, pun
Yeah.
intended. And I've listened to these tracks, and when I went into it with my head, it was hard for me to find the golden ratio because you not mask it, but cleverly braid it all together so well that I couldn't identify where the ratios were coming from. And there was a voice in my head, this was like 2 years ago, a voice in my head that was like, will you shut up and lay back? And so I was like, okay, I need to experience it and not try to study it because it does sound like just peaceful, pleasant, deep house kind of music. And so I was really trying to analyze it, but now understand what you mean and what the formula was. And so to the untrained ear, it's really hard to tell. So it doesn't matter though, just experience the ray of light that's coming in rather than trying to dissect the light codes. But
Yeah.
thank you for explaining it to me because I always wondered
Yeah,
where
that's really it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so it feels like your music not only has medicine in it, but technically, if 440 hertz has been used for the last 70 years in the way that it has been used to mind control, to activate reptilian brain, well, PhiTribe music and music that is tuned in this way is the opposite. It can actually undo mind control.
It really
That's a
can.
big deal.
It really, really can. Yeah. Yeah, 432 hertz would definitely undo the mind control because you're going back. When I said that 440 hertz was dissonant, which means opposite,
Hmm.
it's mathematically dissonant. So it's it's literally taking you to this opposite place. So
Yes.
by doing 432, you're literally taking you right back to the place that you want to be,
Wow.
you know. And it sounds
Wow.
so woo. If you're not really, really down this rabbit hole, it sounds very woo, but I can assure you that some of the most brilliant people on the planet are way down this rabbit hole. If you want to take a deeper dive, get into Robert Edward Grant,
Uh-huh.
brilliant
Yes.
mathematician.
Yeah.
He just a couple of years ago proved um, the unification of geometry, music, and light.
Hmm.
Hello, major freaking discovery, but no one is really talking about it. That's like Tesla level kind of shit, you know? And there's another guy too I really, really appreciate. This guy named Ken Wheeler. He has a channel called
I've
Theoria
heard both of these
Hypothesis.
names.
Yeah,
Someone just mentioned both of them on a podcast
yeah.
that I had, so this is
So
interesting.
yeah, he's a fascinating guy. He's really all about the electric universe, which is what Tesla's whole thing was about. And that's a whole other podcast in itself. So yeah, so when you get down the rabbit hole of this is way, way beyond what people would call woo. I assure you, very, very serious, serious people working on this, you know,
Yeah.
and it's very real. It's very real. I mean, the Benedictine monks didn't study something for 1100 years and keep it secret for no reason,
Hmm.
right? There's something to
Mm.
it. There's something to it. And they've charted out. They've charted out what these frequencies mean. You know, 528 repairs your DNA. 285 boosts your immune system. 639 repairs relationships. 174 helps with pain and fibromyalgia. I mean, they've got it very specifically down. They know what these frequencies do. And it's not a secret. You can just look it up. It's just buried. Like I said, and these are not like woo-woo studies. You can look right in the NIH and find studies for most of these frequencies. So there's really something to all of them. There's been studies where they look at 432 hertz and its effect on relieving people's pain while they're getting dentistry things happening. So when they're listening to that frequency, they're less likely to experience any of the pain. Yeah, I'm sure they still need
Hmm.
some kind of help, but even if you can reduce a little bit of that with some harmless music, it's incredible, you know?
But I keep seeing crystals,
Yeah.
and they don't look like crystals that you bought at the store. It looks crystalline. I don't want to claim that your music is going to activate the plasma rainbow crystal body, right? I
You are gonna
understand. We
poop
don't.
rainbow farts. I mean, it's gonna be unbelievable when you.
Yes, talk about unicorns running around the planet
Well,
everywhere.
people are definitely getting something out of it. I have one. This goes back to the power of phi balance too, because one of my most powerful programs on the channel is this called Third Eye, and there's several different versions of it, but it's over 30 million views on this one
I've
song,
I've listened.
and it only has one note in it. So there's something going on there that you're not hearing,
Yeah.
and that's what that attributes that to
That's what I
the
meant
phi
earlier
balance.
by I analyzed it and my mental brain couldn't find where all of this intention was until I shut up and listened to it.
Yeah, you're not going to find it because everything's in a Fibonacci pattern, which is
Yeah.
very chaotic. And that's good
Mhm.
because I want you to not be able to find the patterns. I want you to get lost in
You
it.
did a good job.
Thank you. But getting back to the power of the golden ratio, you know, it's a wonderful thing that we've created this, been able to apply it to sound, and that is a very unique and wonderful discovery from myself and Mike. But we really borrowed the idea from Tesla. Tesla already was doing this, and he understood. He was friends with Maxwell, and Maxwell was not a very respected guy back then. Everybody thought he was crazy and woo, but Tesla was like, "No, you're spot on." But and by the way, I'm referring to Nikola Tesla, the genius, not the car company.
Yeah.
But Nikola Tesla followed this practice of the golden ratio, where he found the peaks and valleys of the golden ratio to be 3, 6, and 9. So wherever he found threes, he would follow it. Wherever he saw sixes, he would avoid them. And wherever he saw nines, he would follow it. And he would do that with everything. If he had a meeting in a building, he would circle it 3 times before he would go in. He would make sure that he had 9 napkins before he ate a meal. He wanted to make sure that his room added up to a 3 or a 9. So these are the things that he did in his life, and it's basically the same principle being applied to music.
Hmm.
You know,
And he was so targeted and
oh, yeah,
so, and that again, another podcast episode just on Tesla because of what he knew and what he was bringing through. I think just to even withstand this matrix, I think without PhiTribe, I can't assume that you would not feel purpose, but also I think it really helps ground you and keep you solid in this or supported in this very dense realm that we live in.
it directly communes you with source.
Mhm.
And if you want, I can show you how that happens on a mathematical level, or at least a scientific level.
Yes.
That connection is, it happens through toroids. This is what Tesla was all about. By the way, Tesla told Einstein that he was an imbecile. This is where we're at. So this is the split where we went down the Einstein road is a very
Yeah.
different road from where Tesla came from, which was that it's an electric universe. And the electric universe is essentially everything is brought forth into being through what is called toroids, little donuts. And donuts are just little whirlpools of frequency, right? This is what the golden
Yeah.
ratio is all about, right? You flush
Mhm.
a toilet and it spirals down, and it spirals down in the golden ratio. This is
Mhm.
the nature's print, right?
Yeah.
So what people don't realize is that all frequency is one thing, right? At a low frequency, the lowest frequency, we have ohm. We have the ohm, right? The
Mhm.
sound is the beginning. In the beginning
Yeah.
was the word, right? The word was sound. And as we increase the frequency more and more, something happens to that sound and it becomes somniluminescence. And that sound is converted into light. It's just a higher frequency. It becomes
Mhm.
so high frequency pitched that it actually lights up and turns into light. I'm
Yeah.
oversimplifying it, but I'm just trying to get to the point of it's all one thing. Sound and light are one thing.
Mhm.
Okay. You keep increasing the light frequency, you keep going up higher and higher and higher and higher. And then we get to something called, which has just been discovered recently, it's called hard light, where we can
Mhm.
see that with a high enough frequency, light becomes physical matter. It becomes solid. It becomes something
Yeah.
tangible, right?
Mhm.
So we have sound, light, and matter are all one thing, all one frequency. So can you see how when I'm using a frequency that's vibrating your body to perfection, how you're aligning yourself literally with the whole of that donut, right? That donut, the whole of that donut is the communion with the wholeness of all, right?
Yeah.
That's it. When you're out of
Our
balance,
field. Our
yes,
field is toroidal.
your whole field is right down the center of that donut, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's empty.
Hmm.
Right. It's the emptiness in there,
Yeah.
right? And you go through that, and that's your communion. But you can't get
Hmm.
there if you're out of balance. You're going to be stuck in the donut part.
Right.
Only what's perfectly resonant can go through that that hole in the middle, right? Like you
Hmm.
just said, like it's the eye of the needle, right?
Yes.
This is what he's
It
talking
takes
about.
alignment
It takes
so that,
alignment.
because when you have all of these disjointed pipes, you've got like the chakra system. It's not that chakras move to the left or right, but when they're not spinning, it doesn't allow that kundalini to rise and that God source energy to come and meet it. There's this sort of just bringing it into alignment so that things can just move
Yeah,
through it purely.
yeah.
And music is not only activating our energy field, our crystalline light body, there's many things that I'm seeing psychically that I'm going to give a voice to, even if the scientist over there is saying, okay, let's hold it as a possibility. Let's hold it as a possibility. But I also want to talk about something that is more scientific, and that's rife frequencies,
Mm,
because you
yeah,
mentioned that as well.
yeah. So the Rife machines operate at a very in the megahertz, in the millions of hertz, which is a very, very, very high sonic frequency, much higher than the human being can hear. But as I've just described, how all frequencies are one thing, right? Sound, you just keep getting higher and higher and higher, and it becomes light. And then you keep
Hmm.
going higher and higher and higher, and the light becomes a solid thing, right? So everything is connected through vibration. It's all connected through the single vibration. And the rules of music apply to vibration. However, music has rules, it applies to everything. And because
Yeah,
everything is made of vibration, well, guess what? The rules of music apply to everything you can imagine,
yeah,
right? Because we're dealing with vibration. So, um, mathematically, by doubling a frequency, we've increased it by an octave. We say that in the music business, right? In music arrangement, to increase it by an octave, we double the frequency, right? So, or we divide it by itself, by divide it in half to go an octave down. So essentially, what I'm doing is finding the hertz of the Rife frequency, which is super, super high, and I'm reducing that all the way down into an octave of the same frequency
oh, I
into a
see.
register that you can hear it, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
I say that these are not a replacement for a Rife machine, but these are essentially giving you the exact same frequencies, just at a different octave.
Yeah.
And all of the
Wow.
other frequencies in the music are also mathematically harmonic with that frequency. So every frequency note is reinforcing that frequency. You got me?
I
Just at an
do.
octave way lower than the original.
Yeah, it feels like another hermetic principle of as above, so below,
Exactly.
as
That's
within, so without.
exactly. It's exactly it. Yes. It's
Yeah.
octaves forever, up and down.
Our bodies, our energy fields know its original divine set point, just like geometry does.
Mm,
So when you entrain it back into that, it's like the soul can come in, which is what psychedelics did for us as well. It was
sure.
moving our frequency to match that of, well, not only our soul, but the entire universe and creator itself. That's what that place was.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And so that you can't truly come back from.
Yeah.
It's an
That's a one and
aspect of
done.
you came back. Yeah. An aspect of you came back to do this. So please
Yeah.
share with my audience where, not only where we can find you, but what PhiTribe is up to now, where you are, where is this evolving into?
We're at a really weird stage now. With PhiTribe is we're approaching 400,000 subscribers. So
Amazing.
it's been
Yeah.
amazing ride here. Um, And because of AI and where everything is going, I'm just seeing that branding is more important than anything. So I,
Mhm.
I've I haven't really. I wanted PhiTribe to be something bigger than myself. I wanted
Yeah.
to be a record company and have lots of musicians involved. But I'm thinking now because AI is becoming such an impactful force on YouTube that I've just got to suck it up and associate my face and name with PhiTribe and bring a more human component to it because I mean
Yeah.
it's always been made by humans, always been made by me, but I've just been behind the camera. I haven't been in front of the camera before, so that's the new
Yeah.
change for PhiTribe. It's going to be you'll be seeing a lot of my mug and in the videos.
People like us who are really doing it and really have the passion, not just the gifts and talents, the passion for it. We do need to, during this time, rise up and let people know that this is organic, this is real, and I'm reachable to a certain extent. It is
Yeah, yeah,
just like I told you, there's tons of AI bot accounts talking about heal your DNA, but are all using a completely different Hertz frequency.
yeah. The AI doesn't get it right a lot of the times because there's a lot
It
of studies
doesn't.
out there that are fake, and you gotta know your source of where you're getting
Yeah.
things from. And I'm not here to say that NIH is it because we all know the NIH can be wrong about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I don't use just one source. I just really you can find that these frequencies have been studied at nauseum from for decades and decades and decades. So this has been done. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but for whatever reason, AI is just churning chum out. You know, because it
It's
doesn't.
doing what it does,
Yeah, and
regurgitating.
yeah, it doesn't have to get it right because no one's going to check.
That's
Which is
right.
why I feel like the branding of my channel is just so important, just to let people know that I'm out, that it is possible to get the real deal and made from a real human. And so, yeah, it's going to be a new experience for me. I have a
Good.
channel too where I talk about all the crazy philosophy of singularity, but that's a
And
different
that's Ford's
channel.
playground.
That's Forest Playground. Yeah,
Yeah.
much
Well,
much
is there
smaller
anything
channel.
that you want to leave us with before we go?
Oh gosh, just love each other and don't get sucked into the propaganda of the dream.
Mm,
Don't take any of it too serious. It's all just a game. And find
yeah.
your present moment is the answer to all of the peace. That's really it.
Yeah.
And listen to PhiTribe.
PhiTribe is a tool, though everything that we're talking about are different fractals of the same intention that we're all holding to become one and to become connected. And I receive your transmission fully. And thank you all for witnessing this conversation. If you have any questions for Ford, go and check Ford's Playground out, PhiTribe. If you have any questions for me, my links will be in the show notes below. And I appreciate you all for joining me for another episode of Ascend the Matrix podcast.